I'm live. Okay. Yay! Happy Friday. I'm super excited about this live. I got this message this morning that we were going to be talking about working outside of time. So I'm super excited to talk about this because I was kind of reflecting on this and I'm like, oh wow, I feel like or I know that all of the work that I do is working outside of time. So I'm really excited to talk about the different aspects of this and what this really means. So, welcome. If you are just popping on, please say hello to me so I can connect in with your energy. And as always, these videos are live frequency activation. So not only are you hearing the information and the words coming out of my mouth, but the energy that's transmitting through me to you serves as a frequency upgrade and energetic shift. So just being aware of that. Okay, so wow, I feel like the energies are really bright right now. It's interesting. I felt like the end of February was a little hairy, a little clunky. It felt like there was a lot coming up to the surface for people. People were moving through a lot. And I know a lot of us are still moving through a lot, right? Especially as we step into these higher frequencies, step into higher states of consciousness. We are constantly um, purging and releasing the old lower frequencies, but it feels as though there is a lateness in the air. It feels like as we moved into like the first and second days of March. Hi Cassie, so happy you're here. As we moved into the first couple days of March, something lifted and it felt like there was like a lightness to the energy, which felt really, really good. And it felt like there was some kind of energetic opening where, yeah, there was like a lightness to it. So it definitely feels like there's an energy shift for March. And also, what I'm really feeling into, and I think I mentioned this last time. I don't remember at this point. What is time? Which is what I'm going to talk about today. But I mentioned this too that what I'm really tuning into for March, oh, I wrote this in my energy forecast, is like these higher frequencies coming onto the planet. These light frequencies coming onto the planet, and we're really going to be kind of thrust into these higher states of consciousness and also this like more galactic and multi-dimensional awareness is what I'm being shown. So gradually over time it feels more and more like normal, so to speak, to have these different awarenesses about who you really are, where you came from, what your mission is on this planet, like what your galactic origins are, and all of these things that like might have seemed really out there and crazy before are gradually becoming more and more just widely accepted and understood. And I'm really seeing in March that there is like an influx of these energies coming onto the planet. So you might start having some different, I know people are saying they're having some really crazy dreams. I know for me, I've been having some really crazy dreams. And also, I've seen with my clients and with myself that I think we're working out some like ending of karmic patterns in our dreams where you a lot of times we work things out in the dream state. So with people, a lot of times the people that come into our lives, especially people that are significant in our lives, we also are connected with them in the astral realms. So sometimes we don't always need to work things out with them in this realm, and we actually work things out in the astral realms, in the dream states. And that's when we have the chance to go into like parallel lives and other versions of us. And it's kind of really cool. But I feel like a lot of that is happening right now. And the veil is kind of thin between this reality and the other realities that are going on simultaneously. And I know that sounds a little bit like, what the hell? But that's actually what's really happening, right? We just happen to be focused within this reality, in this body, and, you know, in this dimension and time. So today I'm going to talk about working outside of time and what that actually means, because I've been reflecting on this a lot because, as I see people having these quantum shifts, right, where things happen really quickly for them, and it's happened with myself too. And, I've been kind of reflecting for myself as well because this February was this is like hard for me to share about for whatever reason, but I'm just going to share it. Um, but this February was my best month I've ever had in my business. My Hi Roxy, hi Easter. Um, so yes, this February was my best month I ever had in business. I came in at just under 50K this month, and that was my goal, and I hit it. And that's really hard for me to talk about. I'm getting like all like shaky, but I know that I need to like share it and celebrate it. So I've been doing a lot of reflecting around that because I was like, well, what got me to this place and what got me here this quickly, right? And I think a lot of it was the work that I've been doing around in the quantum field and in my own energy, and also the trauma work that I do, right? Because anytime we are looking to get to the next level, the thing that is always standing in the way is the trauma, right? The block, the lower frequency energy, the old belief system, the old programming, right? The way that we feel about the story we're telling ourselves about ourselves that isn't true, that we might not even be aware of. Usually we're not aware of it, right? So when I've been reflecting on like what got me here and what got me here this quickly, it's really those things. And all of those things, like the trauma piece, the working with my own energy piece, and also, just getting a ton of support and investing so much time and energy and money into myself and my business. What I've really noticed is that all of this is working outside of time. So none of this has really been linear. And I think that when we're stepping into this like evolution that we're stepping into right now, we're realizing more and more that time is actually not what we think it is, right? It's not actually real. It's not actually linear. And it can be easily manipulated and shifted and changed, and there's no kind of like oh well, you have to do this and then you have to do this and then you have to do this and then you have to do this. That doesn't actually exist, but we've been kind of brought into this programming that time is linear and that we have to do things in this linear fashion, right? And even that growth is linear, right? That you grow a little bit and then you grow a little bit more and then you grow a little bit more. And like that's true to a certain degree, but also things can happen instantly, right? And things can happen really, really quickly, way more quickly than we think when we're working on an energetic level. So a lot of the work that I do where we're working outside of time is we're working with energy, right? So first I just want to address the healing work, right? When we are clearing trauma and we're doing this healing work, we are actually working outside of time because we are looking at things that have happened in the past and we are imagining those things, right? We are going into these things that happened in the past, which don't exist right now. However, they do exist energetically within you, right? But you're essentially time traveling back to this event that happened and you are changing it. So that's essentially working outside of time, right? Because you are going back to this moment in time that you are essentially reliving over and over again. Because when you have a trauma, when you have something that happened that affected you deeply and that you didn't know how to process, you essentially relive that thing on an energetic level within your being over and over and over again, right? So we wonder why we have anxiety, right? Because I know anxiety is a thing that a lot of people deal with, especially right now. I'm hearing so many people tell me their anxiety is really bad, including myself. And I don't typically have bad anxiety, but every time I go through a big shift, I will have it come up for me, and it came up for me. So I'm gonna share this example from myself as an illustration of how we replay traumas within our energetic being over and over and over again until we heal them, right? So you've probably heard me share about one of the biggest traumas that I went through was my relationship with my mother. And it's not to say anything bad about my mother. She's an amazing, lovely person. We have a great relationship now. But when I was younger, she has trauma and she didn't know how to manage her energy at all. And she would like kind of have these episodes where she would completely lose her mind and like go completely nuts, yell, scream, create a huge like mess. She would like trash the house and it was crazy, right? And I realized that there's a part of me energetically that is continuing to brace for that moment, right? And this is what a lot of us do when it comes to things that we experience, like whether it was like, if you had like a parent leave you or you had a significant thing happen where, if you felt rejected by a parent or you didn't have a parent that could show up for you emotionally, you're continuously either trying to fill that void or bracing for that thing to happen that happened before because your body is actually trying to protect you from it happening again, right? So we're essentially on some level replaying this energy over and over and over again. And what was happening for me is I had this huge up level and I started to feel all this anxiety, right? And my mind was creating all these stories about like all of these bad things that were going to happen and how people were going to be mad at me and all of these things. And I like, and obviously I do my own work with myself. So I'm sitting there and I'm like, okay, what is actually happening for me right now? And I noticed that what was happening for me is my body was having a trauma response to the trauma that I experienced as a young child, which was my mother like losing it and me feeling incredibly unsafe and not sure whether I was going to be okay, right? So essentially my body was in this trauma response of like, oh my God, the person who's supposed to care for me has like gone off her rocker and now I feel unsafe and I don't know if I'm going to be taken care of and my needs are going to be met, right? And I'm sure a lot of people can relate to this because in some form or another, we've all had the experience of a parent who we felt like we didn't know if they were going to be able to care for us in the way that we instinctively and intuitively knew we needed to be cared for, right? Because as a kid, you need your parent to survive. They're the ones who are gonna feed you, clothe you, take care of you. And if they don't do that, you know that you won't survive. So then when you have a parent who is like unstable or traumatized or showing signs that they are not there for you, you instinctively have this trauma response where you're like, oh my God, I need to go in survival mode right now to make sure that I can survive. So what happens is when we are growing and we're moving to a new level and we're moving forward, or if you're like wanting to step forward and starting a business or doing something new or calling in a new relationship, whatever it is, that instinct will come up because whenever any big change happens, your body tries to protect you. Your body tries to say, "Oh no, you can't do that because last time something happened, you were unsafe. So now we're going to try to keep you safe and tell you no, you can't do that." So your body goes into this trauma response. Let me know if this is making sense. So, hi Andrea. So you recreate this, right? Every time there's a big growth, every time there's a big change. So essentially what we do in my work when we work with this trauma is we quickly identify the point at which this happened. And then we go back to this point, we acknowledge it, we identify it, we move through the feelings so that the next time it comes up, you know exactly how to move through it and you don't get stuck in it. So that's how we work outside of time, is essentially we're going back to a moment in time that already happened and we're changing it so that the future changes. Because once we get to that point in time that we are shifting, right, that trauma, that time in your life where you felt completely out of control, where you felt completely threatened, like your survival was being threatened, you felt completely unsafe, We're going back to that moment in time. We're acknowledging it for what it is. We're allowing you to fully process it so the energy and the emotions can move through you so that your body starts to react differently in the present time. Okay, so that's how we work outside of time with healing. Okay, with the healing of the trauma. Okay, now I'm going to talk about how we work outside of time with energy work, because this is another huge piece of what I do to help you, completely transform. So everything is energy, right? You are energy. I am energy. This phone is energy. Everything at its core is energy, right? Particles and waves, I think, is what it is, but actually just waves. I think they boiled it down to. Um, so when we boil things down to the energetic level, like for example, for me, I have this energy, the thing that I just described around being in that trauma response around my mom. This is an energy of feeling unsafe, right? So I can boil it down to an energetic pattern that's running in my body that says you are unsafe, right? So on an energetic level, that is what's happening. So when we boil it down to that, and then we use the energy work. So we actually go in and we remove that energetic pattern from your energetic body. We rip it out, essentially. We cut it out. We pull it out. And then we fill the void with something new. We fill the void with a deep sense of safety. We fill the void with a deep sense of trust. Then what happens is you shift on an energetic level. So energy exists. Energy is the quantum field, right? It exists in the present moment only. So when you do something in the quantum field, when you do energy work like I'm describing, it happens like that. In the quantum field, in the astral plane, there's no gap between like when you say something and when it happens, right? Like if I say I'm clearing the energetic pattern of feeling unsafe from your body right now, that means boom, it happens right now. So essentially when we're working on in the energetic field with energy work, when we're working in the quantum field, we are shifting things instantly. So again, we're working outside of linear time, the time that we have been programmed to follow and believe and that we're living in. We're putting that aside and we're working in the quantum field, in the energetic field, in the present moment where things happen instantly. So all of a sudden, that pattern of feeling unsafe that I've been playing in my body for 40 years, all of a sudden is instantly shifted because I went in and I worked with it on an energetic level and cleared it in the quantum field. So essentially, the quantum field, the present moment, it doesn't exist linearly. It exists always, right? So that time when that thing happened when I was 2, that thing that's going to happen when I'm 50, all exists at the same time in the quantum field. That's where infinite possibilities exist. Every possibility of what could happen exists. So when we're working in that field, we're working outside of time because it's all time. Let me know if this is making sense. It's always a little hard to describe. So anyway, that is how we work with energy in the quantum field outside of time to create transformation. So what happens, right? I know some people who are watching this have experienced my energy work. What happens, right? We can have these quantum shifts, these energetic shifts that sometimes are more subtle, right? Like afterwards, you'll just feel differently. You might start to see things differently because it's almost like when we have certain things that have happened in our lives, and we're running them continuously, energetically in our body, it's almost like we see things through the goggles of that energy pattern that we're running. So for example, if I feel unsafe, I'm looking at the world in a way of like, how can I look at what I'm seeing and protect myself from getting hurt? And I think a lot of people live their lives that way, right? Especially in relationships where it's like, well, because I feel unsafe, I feel like in order to make myself safe, I need to figure out what is going on around me that could potentially hurt me and try to prevent it. But essentially what you're doing is making yourself continue to feel unsafe because you're constantly looking for the ways that you're unsafe. So you're actually doing the opposite thing. So, what ends up happening is that you create more of the feeling of unsafety because you're looking at it through those goggles. But when we do the energy work and we shift it on a deep energetic level, all of a sudden those patterns of energy aren't running anymore. So you stop seeing things through those goggles. So then you're like, oh, I just actually feel really different. I feel more comfortable in my body. I'm not really annoyed by that person that I was really annoyed by. Oh, and like I just got this call for this opportunity to work with a new client who's going to pay me a lot of money, and I don't know where that came from. You know what I mean? Like things just shift like that, where all of a sudden the energy shifts and things just seem easier. So that's what happens when we work with this deep core energy that is underneath of everything. Things just shift instantly because we're working outside of time. Okay, and then my last example of how we work outside of time is breath work. And if you, and some of you I know who have worked with me already, you know that I use breath work in everything that I do. So my programs, one-on-one work, everything that I do, if you're working with me, you will be doing breath work. And the reason why is because it is the most powerful tool for transformation that I have ever found. Especially when you're moving through some really deep trauma or you are really wanting to get from point A to point B quickly. When we incorporate breath work with everything else, it just shifts things so quickly. It gives you a ton of momentum. And the reason why is because breath work is another way that we work outside of time. And here's how it works. So when we're doing breath work is forcing you to be in the present moment, the quantum field where infinite possibilities exist. You have to, because when you think about it, you can't take a breath in the past and you can't take a breath in the future. You have to be present when you are consciously using your breath and moving energy with your breath. So what ends up happening is you are connected deeply with the quantum field. You're connected deeply with the present moment where infinite possibilities exist. So all of a sudden, you become that infinite possibility because you are connected to that field of infinite possibility. So what happens for a lot of people when they first start doing my breath work is they'll be like all of a sudden, oh, this thing just happened that I never would have expected to happen. Or now I have expanded my vision of what's possible for me, where I used to kind of live in this little sliver of reality and think the only possibilities for me lived here. All of a sudden I've expanded it. So now I believe that there's much more that's possible for me, right? So it expands your vision of what's possible. And then it also will help you access your subconscious mind. So kind of what I was describing before, where something happens and that pattern of energy continuously runs in your body until you acknowledge it and deal with it. Well, when you use breath work, you automatically access those subconscious energetic patterns, those subconscious belief systems that are living within you and running the show that you are not aware of. And this is a really big deal, because a lot of times when we're trying to manifest something or we're trying to create something and we don't understand why it's not working, it's usually because there is some kind of subconscious program, belief system, or energetic pattern that's running the show that we have not yet acknowledged or identified. And in order for things to shift, we have to acknowledge it, and we have to identify it. And it's really hard to do on your own. And it's really hard to do without using some kind of tool that puts you in a different state, like breath work. So the two best ways to identify those subconscious patterns that are running the show that you don't know what they are is to do breath work, and also to work with somebody like me who's going to be able to see it really quickly. Because that is always what's happening when you're trying to create something and it's not working. There's some kind of shadow aspect, something within you that's running the show that you're not aware of, and you have to identify it if you want to move forward. You don't have to, but you just won't move forward. Okay, so breath work is a great way to access the subconscious mind, because once you start using the breath and you start moving the energy, you kind of enter this like altered state, where you have access to more parts of your consciousness than you normally would, and things just start to like come forward and release and move through you, and you start to have awareness of things that you wouldn't have had awareness of before. Like maybe it's like a memory or a relationship or a person or a belief system, right? Like things will start to come to the surface into your awareness so that you can then have that awareness so that you can choose out of it. So again, breath work works outside of time because A, you're in the present moment, the quantum field, and then B, you're accessing these subconscious beliefs that are running the show that you didn't know were there because you're entering this altered state. Um, so these are all the ways that we really can work outside of time. And it's not actually that difficult. I know it sounds kind of difficult, but all the ways that we make these quantum shifts and we heal and we change and we transform is all nonlinear. It's all multidimensional and it's happening in a lot of ways that we can't even see. And it's interesting because I had this realization this morning when I was walking the dog is like, because I'm always kind of looking at like what programs we need to dismantle in order to really step into the new earth, right? The new way of living and really create these completely new perspectives, new systems, new ways of living on the planet. I'm like, okay, what needs dismantling and what are the programs that need to be dismantled? And also, I go into this a lot on my podcast. And if you haven't listened to my podcast yet, you have to check it out, Reclaiming Consciousness. It's amazing. We talk more about this. But what I'm always looking at is the programming, right? So, what programs are we needing to dismantle right now? And one of the biggest programs that I was tuning into this morning is around fearing what we can't see. So I think there's been so much programming around fearing what we can't see, and feeling like what, and also that what if we can't see it, it doesn't exist, right? Or you have to be afraid of what you can't see, even if it's like germs, right? This is a really big one. Um, you can't see it, but you need to be afraid of it. Or if you don't see it, it doesn't really exist or you're making it up. And this is all programming to take us out of what is actually true about who we really are, which is that the unseen is actually our greatest superpower. Our energy, which we cannot see, is our greatest asset. That is what makes us who we are, our energy, our consciousness. And where we put that is the most important thing that you can ever do is learn how to work with your energy and your consciousness and be an impeccable steward. My mentor, Jennifer Longmore, always says be an impeccable steward of your money, your energy. Be an impeccable steward of your consciousness, of where you put it, because that is who you become. That is what you become. So that was a little bit of a tangent, but your energy and your consciousness is actually your greatest superpower because that is what you can use to make any kind of change and to create anything is to use your energy and your consciousness, and you can't see that. So we've been programmed to believe that we should be afraid of things we can't see or that the things we can't see don't exist. And those are like, again, two really big lies about what's actually true. So really looking at where am I afraid of what I can't see or dismissing what I can't see because of this underlying programming that we have that if we can't see it, it doesn't exist. So anyway, time again is not linear. So we see it as this linear thing, but really we can manipulate time and work outside of time to create the healing, create the transformation, and create the shifts that we're really wanting to make. So I just want to check the comments here. Oh, hi, Valeria. Thank you. You have a love-hate relationship with my breath work. I totally get it because I do too. You don't always want to lay down to breathe. I always tell people too, especially if you you need to do the breath work, but you're resisting it, to just listen to it. And then that kind of gets you into that state. But I totally know what you mean. So anyway, So that's kind of working outside of time, and that's how that all really works. So let me know if that's making sense, if you guys have questions about that, or if you're drawing any conclusions about that. And the other thing before I leave is I just want to let you guys know of something exciting that's happening this month. Again, definitely listen to the podcast because I have some really amazing guests on there. Really amazing guests, like that will blow your mind. And I have some really awesome ones coming up. So, but right now, this month, I'm opening up just 3 one-on-one spaces. And this is the most powerful and potent like opportunity I've ever put out there to work with me because we go really deep and it's like the most access to my world. So you get access to both of my programs. You get one-on-one calls with me for 6 months plus boxer plus personalized breath work. So it's really just a very deep and all encompassing journey of transformation. So, this is for the person who is a leader, who knows how to lead themselves, who's fully awakened, and who is really committed to contributing to the evolution of humanity and is really solid in like, I know that this is what I'm supposed to do, and I am going all in on my mission, and I know that I need to understand how to do this really deep work so that I can continue to do the inner shifts, create the inner shifts so that I can manifest the outer reality that I'm wanting to create. So this is for the person that is really ready to dive in head first and create massive quantum leaps in not a very long amount of time, but that is ready for this deep level of transformation and support. So I'm going to put the link here to apply, or you can just reach out to me to chat about whether or not this is a fit for you. But it is a 6 month container. And again, you get full access to both of my programs, my community, which is like the greatest thing. I'll start crying if I talk about my community too much because everyone in my community is just so amazing, so powerful. I only attract like these women that have these very high level spiritual gifts that are here to really contribute in a huge way to the evolution of consciousness on the planet. So, you know, the community is amazing. And then it's just a very high level of support, and you will receive a very high level of transformation, especially if you are someone who knows that you're here for more and you keep kind of coming up against the same blocks, or you keep kind of coming up against the same ceiling, the same income ceiling, or the same ceiling of client attraction, or even if it's with relationships, if you're not a business owner or you're wanting to expand what you're doing, you're wanting to grow in a very big transformational way, this is for you. So reach out to me if you want to talk about more about what that is and how you can do that, and I'll put the link here to apply also. So that is all I have for you today. What else is coming up? I will be back next week with an energy forecast, and then I have a really awesome guest coming out on the podcast next week. This past week we had the Untangling from the Matrix 2-part roundtable that was really amazing. You guys have to check that out. And then next week I have this amazing woman named Crystal Biga who came here from Africa 5 years ago and became a really successful coach with her own TV show. She's freaking amazing. Her story, you guys, everybody has to hear it because it is so inspirational and next level. Like, she's freaking amazing. So tune into the podcast, rate and review the show, and send me a screenshot, and I'll send you my miracle frequency activation absolutely free, which is incredibly powerful. And yeah, and reach out to me if you want to chat about the one-on-one spaces. Again, I only have 3. So if you're serious, then reach out to me and we can chat about it. I'm sending you guys so much love. Have a great weekend, and I'll talk to you soon.